Right now, as you listen to these words, there might be someone thousands of miles away whose quantum state is mysteriously linked to yours. Their thoughts rippling through the fabric of reality, creating subtle changes in particles within your own body. It sounds like science fiction, but recent discoveries in quantum biology suggest that the strange phenomenon Einstein called spooky action at a distance might be quietly operating inside living systems, including the neurons firing in your brain at this very moment. Welcome back to another journey into the mysteries that surround us. I'm here to explore with you one of the most mind-bending possibilities emerging from modern science, where the bizarre rules of quantum mechanics might be silently shaping our most intimate connections with others. Tonight, we're diving into the gentle rabbit hole of quantum entanglement in biological systems. And by the end of this exploration, you might never think about your relationships, your intuition, or even your own consciousness in quite the same way again. Before we begin, I want you to settle in somewhere comfortable. This isn't a race to understanding, it's a slow walk through ideas that have puzzled the greatest minds in science. Let your thoughts soften as we explore together whether the invisible threads connecting quantum particles might also be weaving through the fabric of life itself. To understand how you might be quantum entangled with someone else, we first need to gently unpack what quantum entanglement actually is. Picture two particles that have interacted in such a way that their properties become fundamentally linked, not just correlated, but genuinely connected across space and time in a way that defies our everyday understanding of reality. When scientists measure one of these entangled particles and find it spinning clockwise, they instantly know the other particle, no matter how far away, will be spinning counterclockwise. Not because the particles somehow communicate faster than light, but because they've become part of a single quantum system that transcends the boundaries we normally think separate one thing from another. Einstein famously disliked this idea, calling it spooky action at a distance, because it seemed to violate his theory of relativity's speed limit on information. He believed there must be hidden variables, secret instructions that predetermined how each particle would behave. But decades of experiments have confirmed that quantum entanglement is real, and there are no hidden variables. The universe, at its most fundamental level, is far stranger and more interconnected than our classical intuition suggests. Now here's where things get fascinating for biology. For most of the 20th century, scientists assumed that the warm, wet, chaotic environment inside living organisms would instantly destroy any quantum effects. Quantum states are notoriously fragile, easily disrupted by heat, vibration, or electromagnetic fields. The inside of a cell bustling with molecular activity and chemical reactions seem like the last place you'd find the delicate quantum phenomena that require carefully controlled laboratory conditions to observe. But nature, as it turns out, is far more ingenious than we imagined. Let's start with something growing quietly outside your window right now. Every green plant you can see is performing one of the most efficient energy conversion processes known to science through photosynthesis. For decades, scientists couldn't fully explain how plants achieve their remarkable efficiency in capturing and converting sunlight into chemical energy. Classical physics suggested there should be significant energy losses as light bounces randomly through the molecular maze of a leaf's light harvesting complexes. Recent discoveries using ultrafast spectroscopy have revealed something extraordinary. When a photon of light hits a chlorophyll molecule in a plant's photosynthetic complex, it doesn't take a single random path to the reaction center where energy conversion happens. Instead, the energy appears to explore multiple pathways simultaneously through quantum coherence, essentially testing every possible route at once to find the most efficient path forward. This is quantum superposition at work in biology. The energy exists in multiple states simultaneously, taking all possible pathways through the light harvesting complex until environmental factors cause it to collapse into the single, most efficient route. It's as if the plant is performing quantum calculations billions of times per second, optimizing energy transfer with a precision that surpasses our most advanced solar panels. But here's what makes this even more remarkable. These quantum effects persist for surprisingly long periods in the noisy biological environment. The quantum coherence times observed in photosynthetic systems are far longer than classical physics would predict, suggesting that evolution has found ways to protect and exploit quantum states for biological advantage. As you sit here listening, the plants around you are quietly demonstrating that quantum mechanics isn't confined to sterile laboratories. It's woven into the fundamental processes that sustain life on Earth. Every breath of oxygen you take was produced through quantum-enhanced photosynthesis. The boundary between quantum and classical worlds isn't as clear-cut as we once believed. Now let's journey into one of the most elegant examples of quantum biology in action. Every autumn, millions of European robins embark on journeys spanning thousands of miles, navigating with pinpoint accuracy across continents they've never seen before. For decades, scientists knew these birds possessed some kind of magnetic compass, but the mechanism remained mysterious. The answer, researchers now believe, lies in a protein called cryptochrome, found in the robin's retina. When blue light from the sun strikes these cryptochrome molecules, it triggers a remarkable quantum process. The light excites electrons within the protein, creating pairs of particles whose quantum states become entangled. These entangled electron pairs are exquisitely sensitive to magnetic fields, including Earth's magnetic field. Here's the beautiful part. The quantum entanglement between these electron pairs allows the bird to literally see magnetic field lines overlaid on its visual field. The Earth's magnetic field influences the quantum states of the entangled particles, and this quantum information is translated into biochemical signals that the bird's brain interprets as navigational information. It's a quantum compass that operates at the intersection of physics and biology. This isn't speculation or metaphor. Experiments have shown that disrupting the cryptochrome proteins in robins impairs their ability to navigate using magnetic fields. The bird's extraordinary navigational precision depends on maintaining quantum entanglement between particles in their eyes while flying through the chaotic electromagnetic environment of our planet. Think about this for a moment. Every time you see a robin in your garden, you're looking at a living quantum computer that's processing entangled information to navigate through space. The same phenomenon that Einstein found so troubling is quietly enabling one of nature's most impressive feats of navigation. Now we arrive at perhaps the most intriguing possibility of all. Recent research from Shanghai University has proposed something that sounds almost too extraordinary to believe, that quantum entanglement might be occurring naturally within your brain right now. The researchers focused on myelin sheaths, the fatty protective coatings that surround nerve fibers throughout your nervous system. These myelin sheaths contain abundant carbon-hydrogen bonds that, under certain conditions, can emit pairs of photons when stimulated by the infrared radiation naturally produced within neural tissue. The remarkable suggestion is that these photon pairs could become quantum entangled, creating instantaneous correlations between distant regions of your brain. If this hypothesis is correct, It would mean that your neurons aren't just connected through the slow process of chemical and electrical signals traveling along nerve pathways, but also through quantum entangled states that transcend the normal limitations of space and time within your skull. This is, I should emphasize, still a highly speculative idea with no scientific consensus. The brain operates in a warm, electrically active environment that should theoretically destroy quantum coherence almost instantly. However, the researchers proposed that the cylindrical structure of myelin sheaths might create protected quantum spaces where entanglement could persist long enough to influence neural processes. If confirmed, this would revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. It might help explain the binding problem in neuroscience, how your brain integrates information from different regions into the unified, conscious experience you're having right now. As you listen to these words, as we turn to the brain, let's consider one of the most compelling areas where quantum effects might manifest: the mysterious connection often reported between identical twins. For centuries, twins have described experiences that seem to defy conventional explanation, feeling each other's pain across great distances, making identical decisions simultaneously, or sensing when something significant has happened to their sibling. Mainstream science has typically attributed such phenomena to shared genetics, similar environments, and confirmation bias. But the emerging field of quantum biology is forcing researchers to reconsider whether there might be genuine quantum components to these connections. A groundbreaking study involving 106 pairs of identical twins has provided the first empirical evidence that quantum entanglement might influence human consciousness and learning. The researchers used quantum circuits to manipulate visual stimuli presented to separated twin pairs. When the stimuli were controlled by quantum entangled circuits, the twins showed enhanced learning performance and greater neural synchronization compared to control conditions using non-entangled circuits. The study found that quantum entanglement explained 13.5% of the variance in learning accuracy, while neuroplasticity markers showed a 26.2% increase in cognitive performance under entangled conditions. These results suggest that consciousness itself might be quantum in nature, with entangled states between brain regions or even between different individuals enabling enhanced cognitive performance. Take a moment to consider what this might mean for your own relationships. Have you ever had the experience of thinking about someone just before they called you, or felt an inexplicable urge to check on a loved one who turned out to need help? While these experiences might have conventional explanations, the possibility of quantum entanglement in biological systems opens up new ways of understanding the subtle connections we feel with others. The shared developmental environment in the womb, where twins are literally connected through shared blood circulation and surrounded by the same electromagnetic fields, could theoretically create conditions for quantum entanglement between developing neural networks. If quantum effects can persist in the noisy environment of photosynthetic complexes and bird navigation systems, perhaps they can also survive in the intimate biological connection between developing brains. As we've journeyed through these discoveries together, a pattern begins to emerge. From the quantum-enhanced efficiency of photosynthesis to the magnetic compass in a robin's eye, from the hypothetical quantum networks in your brain to the mysterious connections between twins, we're seeing evidence that the strange world of quantum mechanics isn't separate from the biological world. It's woven throughout it. This suggests something profound about the nature of life itself. Perhaps the boundaries we perceive between individual organisms between mind and matter, between self and other, are more permeable than we've assumed. If quantum entanglement can persist in biological systems, then the web of connection might extend far beyond what our classical intuitions tell us is possible. Consider the ecosystem around you as you listen to this. The plants quantum processing sunlight, the birds navigating through quantum compass systems, the possible quantum networks in your own brain processing these very thoughts. You're not separate from this quantum web of connection, you're part of it. Every breath you take brings oxygen created through quantum-enhanced photosynthesis. Every moment of conscious awareness might involve quantum processes orchestrating the neural symphony of your experience. But remember, as we explore these possibilities, we're at the very frontier of scientific understanding. Many of these ideas remain speculative, requiring much more research to establish their validity. The connection between quantum mechanics and consciousness is still hotly debated, with no scientific consensus on how or whether such connections actually exist. What's clear is that the quantum world and the biological world are far more intertwined than we once believed. The same physical principles that govern the behavior of particles in laboratory experiments also appear to be at work in the most intimate processes of life, and possibly consciousness. As you drift through your day tomorrow, notice the moments when you feel unexpectedly connected to someone. Pay attention to those subtle intuitions about others that seem to come from nowhere. While we can't yet prove that quantum entanglement creates these experiences, the emerging science of quantum biology suggests that the universe might be far more interconnected than our everyday awareness reveals. The story of quantum entanglement in biological systems is still being written. Each new discovery opens up more questions than it answers, inviting us deeper into the mystery of what it means to be conscious, connected beings in a quantum universe. And speaking of the mysteries that challenge our understanding of reality, our next exploration will take us even further into the realm of the impossible. We'll discover why faster-than-light travel might not just be difficult to achieve, but could potentially unravel the very fabric of existence itself in ways that would make quantum entanglement seem simple by comparison. But for now, rest in the possibility that you might be more connected to others than you ever imagined, through threads of quantum correlation that weave through the hidden dimensions of reality itself. As we settle deeper into this exploration, let me invite you to pause for a moment and consider something happening right now. As you listen to these words, your brain is processing quantum-scale events at an almost incomprehensible rate. Every chemical reaction in your neurons involves the movement of electrons through quantum tunnels. Every photon hitting your retina carries quantum information from distant stars. And according to some interpretations, every moment of conscious awareness might involve the orchestration of quantum processes we're only beginning to understand. But quantum entanglement in biological systems, if it exists as some researchers propose, wouldn't be limited to the dramatic examples we've discussed. It might be woven into the subtle fabric of everyday experience in ways so gentle and pervasive that we barely notice them at all. Think about those moments when you walk into a room and immediately sense the mood, even before anyone has spoken. Or when you feel drawn to call someone who, it turns out, was just thinking about you. While these experiences likely have conventional explanations rooted in our evolved social intuition and pattern recognition, the possibility of quantum effects in consciousness opens up intriguing questions about the nature of human connection. The magnetoreception systems we find throughout the animal kingdom offer a window into how quantum effects might operate in biological networks. Sea turtles navigate across entire ocean basins using quantum compass systems. returning to the exact beaches where they hatched decades earlier. Monarch butterflies complete multi-generational migrations spanning thousands of miles, with individuals who have never made the journey somehow knowing the precise route through quantum-enhanced navigation. Even more remarkably, honeybees use quantum magnetoreception to communicate the location of flowers to their hive mates through their waggle dance, integrating quantum-sensed magnetic information with visual landmarks. What's fascinating is that these quantum navigation systems don't operate in isolation. They're part of complex biological networks where quantum information gets translated into behavior, movement, and ultimately survival. As you think about your own navigation through social spaces, consider how you seem to know things about others without explicit information. You sense when someone is uncomfortable, you feel the energy shift when certain people enter a room, you intuitively know when to offer comfort or when to give space. While mirror neurons and subtle social cues explain much of this, the emerging understanding of quantum biology suggests that the information networks connecting living systems might be far richer and more mysterious than we've assumed. Let's zoom into the quantum realm that exists within your body right now. In every cell, quantum tunneling enables enzymes to catalyze reactions that would be impossible under classical physics. Electrons don't just hop from one molecule to another, they pass through energy barriers like ghosts walking through walls, making the chemistry of life possible at the temperatures and conditions that exist inside you. But here's what's truly remarkable about quantum tunneling in biological systems. Recent research suggests that evolution hasn't just tolerated these quantum effects, it may have actively optimized them. The specific shapes and structures of biological molecules appear to be fine-tuned to exploit quantum phenomena for enhanced efficiency and precision. Consider the enzyme that helps copy your DNA every time a cell divides. This enzyme achieves an error rate of less than one mistake per billion base pairs, a precision that seems almost impossible given the random thermal motion of molecules at body temperature. Some researchers propose that quantum effects, including potentially quantum entanglement between the enzyme and the DNA strands it's copying, help achieve this extraordinary accuracy. This suggests something profound about the nature of life itself. You're not just a classical machine made of atoms bouncing around according to predictable rules. You are a quantum system, a dynamic pattern of probability and possibility that somehow maintains coherence and identity while participating in the larger quantum dance of the universe. Take a deep breath and notice how even this simple act involves quantum processes. The oxygen molecules entering your lungs will participate in quantum-enhanced reactions in your mitochondria. The energy released will involve quantum tunneling between molecules and the electrical signals in your nerves that coordinate this. Breathing will propagate through quantum channels in your neural networks. You are, in a very real sense, a walking symphony of quantum events, each note contributing to the melody of your conscious experience. Now let's explore one of the most intriguing possibilities emerging from quantum biology research. That intuition itself might have quantum components. This remains highly speculative, but bear with me as we consider what this might mean for your everyday experience of knowing things you shouldn't technically be able to know. Traditional neuroscience explains intuition as the brain's ability to process vast amounts of subtle information below the threshold of conscious awareness. You pick up on micro-expressions, body language, vocal tones, and environmental cues, integrating all this data into a feeling or hunch about a situation or person. This is undoubtedly part of how intuition works, and it's remarkably sophisticated. But some interpretations of quantum consciousness research suggest there might be additional layers to consider. If quantum entanglement can persist in biological systems, and if consciousness involves quantum processes, as some researchers propose, then the information available to your brain might extend beyond what your classical senses detect. This is purely speculative, but imagine if your neural networks could access quantum information that transcends the normal boundaries of space and time. Not in some mystical sense, but through the same physical principles that allow entangled particles to share correlated states instantaneously across vast distances. When you meet someone new and immediately feel you can trust them, or when you sense that something significant is about to happen, might there be quantum information processing contributing to these impressions? We simply don't know yet. The science is too early to draw conclusions, but the questions are fascinating to contemplate. What we do know is that the quantum world operates by rules that defy our classical intuitions about separateness and locality. If these rules apply to biological systems, including potentially conscious ones, then the nature of information and connection might be far richer than we currently understand. As you move through your daily interactions, notice those moments when you seem to know more than you should based on the available information. While remaining appropriately skeptical about extraordinary claims, allow yourself to wonder whether the quantum threads that connect particles might also weave through the fabric of consciousness and connection. Let's step back now and consider what all of these discoveries might mean for how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe. The emerging field of quantum biology is revealing that the strange, counterintuitive principles of quantum mechanics aren't confined to abstract laboratory experiments. They appear to be fundamental to the processes that make life possible. This creates a beautiful mirror between the microscopic and the macroscopic, between the quantum realm and the lived experience of being conscious. Just as quantum particles exist in superposition until measured, perhaps consciousness involves the collapse of neural possibilities into specific thoughts and perceptions. Just as quantum entanglement creates instantaneous correlations across space, perhaps awareness creates connections that transcend the apparent boundaries between self and other. I want to be clear that this is largely metaphorical territory. We don't have scientific proof that consciousness works like a quantum measurement device, or that human connection operates through quantum entanglement. These are intriguing parallels, not established facts, but they invite us to consider whether the universe might be more unified and interconnected than our everyday experience suggests. Think about your own experience of connection with others. There are moments when the boundary between self and other seems to blur, when you feel deeply attuned to someone else's inner state, when communication happens almost wordlessly. While these experiences have many possible explanations, the quantum perspective offers a framework for understanding how apparent separateness might coexist with fundamental interconnection. The plants outside your window are quantum processing sunlight into energy. The birds overhead are quantum navigating through magnetic fields. The bacteria in your body are potentially using quantum effects to orient themselves along magnetic field lines. You exist within a web of quantum processes that connect you to the larger patterns of life and cosmos. If quantum entanglement can persist in biological systems, it suggests that the boundaries we perceive between separate things might be more fluid than we assume. This doesn't mean you're telepathically connected to everyone around you, but it might mean that the information networks that sustain life are richer and more mysterious than our classical models suggest. This perspective invites a kind of gentle humility about what we know and don't know about consciousness and connection. Science has revealed extraordinary things about the quantum nature of reality, but we're still in the early stages of understanding how these principles apply to living systems and conscious experience. Perhaps the most important implication is simply this: you are far more connected to the world around you than you might typically imagine. Through the quantum processes that sustain your life, through the entangled histories that connect you to every other living thing, through the mysterious information networks that might link conscious beings, you participate in a reality that is simultaneously more strange and more unified than our everyday awareness reveals. Take a moment now to feel this connection. Notice how your breath connects you to the quantum-enhanced photosynthesis of plants. Notice how your consciousness might involve the same quantum principles that govern the behavior of particles in distant galaxies. Notice how the boundaries between you and the world around you are perhaps less solid than they appear. This isn't mysticism, it's an invitation to let the implications of quantum biology gently expand your sense of what it means to be a conscious, connected being in a quantum universe. But this uncertainty is part of what makes the journey so compelling. We live in a time when the deepest questions about consciousness, connection, and the nature of reality are still open. The quantum world has already surprised us by showing up in photosynthesis, in bird navigation, and potentially in the neural networks of the brain. What other surprises might await as we continue to explore the quantum foundations of life? The story of quantum entanglement in biological systems reminds us that the universe is under no obligation to conform to our intuitions about how things should work. Reality, at its deepest level, appears to be far stranger, more interconnected, and more mysterious than our everyday experience suggests. As we've wandered through the landscape of quantum biology together, a deeper pattern begins to emerge. The same universe that allows particles to remain mysteriously connected across vast distances has apparently found ways to weave these connections into the very fabric of life itself. But tonight, I want to invite you to consider something even more subtle, more pervasive than the dramatic examples we've explored. What if quantum entanglement in biological systems isn't just happening in specialized proteins or particular brain regions? What if it's occurring at scales and in ways so fundamental that we barely notice them, like the gentle hum of existence itself? Consider the microbiome living within you right now. Your body hosts trillions of bacteria, each one a complete living system with its own quantum processes. Recent research suggests that some bacteria contain magnetosomes, tiny chains of magnetic crystals that help them navigate along Earth's magnetic field lines. These bacterial compass systems might operate through quantum principles similar to those we see in migratory birds. But here's what's remarkable to contemplate. These bacteria aren't just passengers in your body. They're active participants in your physiology, producing neurotransmitters, regulating immune responses, even influencing your mood and behavior. If their navigation systems involve quantum effects, and if they're intimately connected to your own biological processes, then the quantum web of connection extends far beyond what we might typically consider part of ourselves. Guess what? Take a moment to feel the quiet ecosystem within you. As you breathe, as your heart beats, as thoughts arise and dissolve in your awareness, billions of quantum processes are orchestrating the symphony of your existence. You are not just a single organism, you are a walking community of interconnected living systems, each potentially participating in quantum networks we're only beginning to understand. This perspective invites a profound shift in how we think about the boundaries of self. Where do you end and the quantum navigating bacteria begin? Where does your individual consciousness interface with the collective intelligence of your cellular community? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're invitations to expand your sense of what it means to be a quantum biological entity. Now let's explore one of the most intriguing possibilities emerging from quantum biology research. What if memory itself, both individual and collective, has quantum components that we're only beginning to recognize? Traditional neuroscience explains memory as patterns of connections between neurons, strengthened through repeated activation and maintained through ongoing biochemical processes. This is certainly part of how memory works, and it's a remarkably sophisticated system. But some interpretations of quantum brain research suggest there might be additional layers to consider. If quantum effects can persist in biological systems, as we've seen in photosynthesis and bird navigation, might they also play a role in how information is stored and retrieved in neural networks? Some researchers speculate that quantum coherence could enable forms of information processing that transcend the classical limitations of individual neurons and their connections. This remains highly speculative, but consider what it might mean for your own experience of remembering. Sometimes a memory arrives not as a linear reconstruction of past events, but as a sudden, complete knowing that seems to emerge from nowhere. Sometimes you remember not just what happened, but the quality of light, the feeling in the air, the subtle emotional resonance of a moment from decades ago. While these rich memory experiences likely have conventional explanations in the complex architecture of the brain, the quantum perspective opens up questions about whether memory might involve information networks that extend beyond what we currently understand about neural processing. This isn't to suggest that memories are stored in some quantum field accessible across time and space. Rather, it's an invitation to wonder whether the information processing systems that create and maintain memory might be more quantum in nature than our classical models assume. As you reflect on your own memories, notice how they seem to exist not just as stored data, but as living patterns that continue to evolve and influence your present experience. This ongoing dynamic relationship between past and present might involve quantum processes that help explain why memory feels so much richer and more mysterious than simple information storage. Let's turn our attention now to attention itself. As you listen to these words, your consciousness is performing an extraordinary feat of selection and focus. From the vast stream of sensory information available to you in this moment, your awareness is choosing to follow this particular thread of ideas, integrating spoken words with internal understanding, creating meaning from sound waves traveling through air. Recent research in neuroscience suggests that attention operates more like a quantum process than a classical spotlight. Rather than simply illuminating one thing at a time, attention appears to exist in a kind of superposition, simultaneously aware of multiple possibilities until the moment of conscious recognition collapses this distributed awareness into a specific focus. This quantum-like quality of attention becomes apparent when you notice how awareness can shift and expand in unexpected ways. Sometimes while focusing intently on one thing, you suddenly become aware of something completely different that you hadn't consciously noticed before. It's as if your attention was exploring multiple streams of information simultaneously, below the threshold of explicit awareness. If consciousness involves quantum processes, as some interpretations of quantum brain research suggest, then attention might be one of the most direct ways we experience quantum effects in our daily lives. Every moment of focused awareness might involve the collapse of neural possibilities into specific thoughts and perceptions, similar to how quantum measurement collapses wave functions into definite states. This remains a speculative idea, not a proven scientific fact, but it offers an intriguing framework for understanding the fluid, mysterious nature of conscious attention. Notice how your focus right now isn't rigid or mechanical, but dynamic and alive, capable of subtle shifts and expansions that seem to emerge from the quantum realm of possibility. As you become aware of your awareness itself, you might sense this quantum-like quality directly. Attention doesn't feel like a classical process of mechanical selection. It feels more like a gentle collapse of infinite possibility into the specific richness of this moment's experience. Communication between living beings might also have quantum dimensions that we rarely consider. When you speak to someone and they understand not just your words, but your meaning, your emotional tone, your underlying intention, something remarkable is happening that transcends the classical model of information transmission. Consider how much information gets transmitted in a single glance between people who know each other well. Micro-expressions, pupil dilation, subtle shifts in posture, the quality of attention itself, all combine to create a rich information exchange that happens faster than conscious processing can track. But some interpretations of quantum biology research suggest there might be additional channels of information that we haven't yet learned to measure or understand. If quantum effects can persist in biological systems, and if consciousness involves quantum processes, as some researchers propose, then the information available during communication might extend beyond what our classical models predict. This doesn't mean you're telepathically reading minds or sending thoughts across space. Rather, it suggests that the information networks that enable communication between conscious beings might be richer and more mysterious than we currently understand. When you have the experience of knowing what someone is going to say before they say it, or when you feel deeply understood by another person in a way that seems to transcend the words being exchanged, might there be quantum information processing contributing to these experiences? We simply don't know yet, but the questions are fascinating to explore. The quantum perspective invites us to consider whether communication is fundamentally about separate beings exchanging discrete packets of information, or whether it might involve temporary states of quantum correlation, where the boundaries between self and other become more fluid and permeable. As you engage in conversations tomorrow, notice those moments when understanding seems to happen faster than the exchange of words should allow. While remaining appropriately skeptical about extraordinary claims, allow yourself to wonder whether the quantum threads that connect particles might also facilitate the mysterious process of one consciousness touching another through language and presence. Time itself might operate differently in quantum biological systems than we typically assume. In the quantum realm, particles can exist in superposition across multiple time states, and quantum entanglement creates correlations that seem to transcend the normal flow of cause and effect. If these principles apply to living systems, then biological time might be far more mysterious than our linear clock-based understanding suggests. Consider the remarkable precision of biological rhythms. Your circadian clock, the internal timekeeper that regulates sleep and waking, operates with extraordinary accuracy despite being based on the chaotic thermal motion of molecules at body temperature. How does a biological system maintain such precise timing in the face of constant molecular noise? Some researchers speculate that quantum effects might contribute to the precision of biological clocks. Quantum coherence could potentially enable biological timing systems to integrate information across multiple temporal scales simultaneously, creating the stable rhythms that coordinate life processes. This suggests something profound about your relationship with time. You might not just exist within time as a passive observer. Through the quantum processes that sustain your life, you might participate in the creation of biological time itself, contributing to the temporal patterns that organize the living world. Notice how your own experience of time varies dramatically depending on your state of consciousness. Time seems to slow during moments of intense focus or crisis, speed up during periods of flow and engagement, and almost stop during deep meditative states. While these subjective time effects have many possible explanations, the quantum perspective suggests that the relationship between consciousness and temporality might be more dynamic and participatory than our classical models assume. As you move through your daily rhythms, from the quantum-enhanced photosynthesis that creates your oxygen to the possible quantum networks that coordinate your neural activity, you participate in biological time at scales ranging from femtoseconds to seasons. You are not just subject to time's flow, you are part of its creation. The discoveries we've explored together tonight represent more than just interesting additions to scientific knowledge. They suggest a quiet revolution in how we understand the nature of life, consciousness, and our place in the universe. For centuries, the dominant scientific paradigm has emphasized separateness, reduction, and mechanical causation. Living systems were understood as complex machines. Consciousness was viewed as an emergent property of neural computation, and the quantum world was confined to microscopic laboratory experiments far removed from everyday experience. But quantum biology is revealing a different picture. Life appears to be quantum at its core, exploiting coherence and entanglement to achieve efficiencies and capabilities that classical systems cannot match. The boundary between quantum and classical worlds isn't sharp but gradual, with quantum effects persisting in biological systems under conditions that should theoretically destroy them. This doesn't mean we should abandon scientific rigor or embrace mystical explanations for natural phenomena. Rather, it invites us to expand our scientific imagination to include possibilities we hadn't previously considered. The universe is under no obligation to conform to our classical intuitions about how things should work. What's particularly beautiful about this emerging understanding is how it bridges the apparent gap between the scientific worldview and the lived experience of being conscious, connected beings. The same quantum principles that govern particle behavior in laboratories also appear to orchestrate the processes that make life and possibly consciousness possible. This creates space for a more integrated understanding of reality, one that honors both the rigorous methods of science and the subjective richness of conscious experience. You don't have to choose between being a scientifically informed person and someone who experiences deep connection, intuitive knowing, or moments of transcendent awareness. If you are indeed a quantum biological entity, as the emerging science suggests, then every moment of your life involves processes that transcend the classical boundaries of space, time, and separate existence. From the quantum tunneling in your cellular energy production to the possible quantum networks in your neural processing, you participate in a reality that is simultaneously more strange and more unified than ordinary awareness reveals. This understanding doesn't require you to change anything about how you live. You don't need to meditate on quantum fields or visualize entangled particles. The quantum processes that sustain your life operate perfectly well without conscious intervention. But awareness of your quantum nature might subtly influence how you relate to yourself, others, and the world around you. You might notice an increased sense of connection to the natural world, recognizing that the quantum processes in your body are part of the same fundamental reality that governs the behavior of stars and galaxies. You might experience relationships with slightly less emphasis on separation and slightly more appreciation for the mysterious ways consciousness touches consciousness. You might find yourself more comfortable with uncertainty and paradox, recognizing that these are fundamental features of quantum reality rather than problems to be solved. The quantum world teaches us that reality is probabilistic rather than deterministic, relational rather than absolute, and far more interconnected than classical physics suggested. Most importantly, awareness of your quantum nature might cultivate a sense of wonder about the ordinary miracle of existence itself. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought involves quantum processes so sophisticated and mysterious that we're only beginning to understand them. But this uncertainty is part of what makes the journey so compelling. We live in a remarkable time when some of the deepest questions about life, consciousness, and reality itself remain genuinely open. The quantum world has already surprised us by revealing its presence in photosynthesis, bird navigation, and potentially in the neural networks of the brain. What other surprises await as we continue to explore the quantum foundations of existence? The story of quantum biology reminds us that the universe is far more creative and mysterious than our theories often suggest. Reality, at its deepest level, appears to be neither purely classical nor purely quantum, but something richer and more nuanced that encompasses both domains while transcending the limitations of each. This perspective invites a kind of intellectual humility that I find deeply refreshing. We can marvel at how much we've learned about the quantum nature of reality, while simultaneously acknowledging how much remains mysterious and unknown. Wonder and scientific rigor can coexist beautifully, each enhancing rather than diminishing the other. As you continue through your days, carry with you this sense of participating in the ongoing discovery of what it means to be a conscious quantum biological entity. When you experience moments of unexpected connection, when intuitions prove remarkably accurate, when the boundaries between self and world seem mysteriously permeable, allow yourself to wonder whether quantum information networks might be contributing to these experiences while maintaining appropriate scientific skepticism about claims that extend far beyond current evidence. The quantum world is strange enough without embellishing it with unproven assertions, but it's also far stranger and more wonderful than our everyday awareness typically reveals. Remember that you are simultaneously a classical being, subject to gravity and thermodynamics and all the familiar laws of physics, and a quantum entity, participating in superposition and entanglement and the probabilistic dance of possibility. You don't have to choose between these perspectives. They're both true, both partial, both invitations to expand your understanding of what it means to exist. As the night deepens around you, or perhaps as morning light begins to filter through your windows, let's take a moment to appreciate something extraordinary about your current experience. Right now, you're floating in an ocean of quantum activity so vast and complex that every second of your existence involves more quantum interactions than there are stars in the observable universe. This isn't metaphor or poetry. This is the literal reality of being a biological entity in a quantum cosmos. Every photon of light reaching your eyes has travelled through space as a probability wave, existing in superposition until the moment it strikes your retina and collapses into a specific location and energy state. The oxygen molecules you're breathing were created in stellar furnaces through quantum fusion processes, then liberated through quantum-enhanced photosynthesis in plants that used quantum coherence to maximize their energy efficiency. But perhaps most remarkably, the very atoms that make up your body are quantum entities that have been recycling through the universe for billions of years. The carbon in your cells was forged in the heart of dying stars. The iron in your blood was scattered across space by ancient supernovas. The hydrogen in your water molecules has been quantum dancing since shortly after the Big Bang itself. You are quite literally made of stardust, but stardust that has maintained its quantum nature throughout its cosmic journey. This means that the quantum entanglements and correlations that connect particles across the universe might have deep historical roots, extending back through the entire evolutionary history of matter itself. Take a breath and feel this connection. The quantum field fluctuations that surround you right now are the same fields that filled the early universe, that guided the formation of the first atoms, that orchestrated the birth of stars and planets. You don't just exist within this quantum ocean, you are a temporary pattern in its endless flow, a brief eddy of consciousness in the cosmic stream of possibility. Let's drift deeper now into the cellular symphony that maintains your existence moment by moment. Within each of your trillions of cells, quantum processes are orchestrating a dance of staggering complexity and beauty. But what's truly remarkable is how these quantum events seem to coordinate across vast biological distances, creating the unified organism you experience as yourself. Some interpretations of quantum biology research suggest that cells might communicate through quantum channels we're only beginning to understand, not through the classical chemical signals that textbooks describe, but through subtler quantum correlations that could enable instantaneous coordination across your entire biological system. This remains a speculative idea with no scientific consensus, but consider what it might mean for your experience of being a unified conscious entity. How does the quantum activity in a cell in your toe somehow coordinate with the quantum processes in your brain? How does your immune system, distributed throughout your body, maintain its coherent response to threats, while operating through countless independent cellular decisions? Classical biology explains much of this through chemical signaling, hormone cascades, and neural networks. But the emerging understanding of quantum effects in biological systems opens up questions about whether there might be additional layers of coordination happening at quantum scales. If cells can maintain quantum coherence in the noisy biological environment, as we've seen in photosynthesis and bird navigation, might they also share quantum information in ways that contribute to the remarkable unity of multicellular life? This is pure speculation, but it's fascinating to contemplate as you sit here, feeling yourself as a single, integrated being, despite being composed of trillions of semi-autonomous cellular entities. Notice how your body maintains its temperature, coordinates the rhythm of your breathing with your heartbeat, balances hundreds of chemical processes simultaneously, all without any conscious effort on your part. The organizational intelligence required for this coordination is staggering, and quantum information networks might be part of how this biological symphony stays in tune. Now let's explore how the quantum principles we've discovered in biological systems might offer new ways of understanding the mysterious dynamics of human relationships. Not through direct quantum entanglement between people, which remains unproven, but through the more subtle ways that quantum thinking can illuminate the nature of connection and communication. Consider how relationships, like quantum systems, seem to exist in states of superposition until observed. When you're apart from someone you care about, your connection with them exists in a realm of possibility rather than definite states. Are they thinking of you? How are they feeling? What would they say about a particular situation? Until you interact again, these questions exist in a kind of relational superposition. The moment you reconnect, whether through conversation, text, or simply being in each other's presence, this superposition collapses into specific shared experiences. But here's what's fascinating. The quality of that collapse, the particular way the relationship crystallizes in each moment of contact, seems to depend on subtle factors that mirror quantum measurement effects. Your attention, your emotional state, your openness to connection all influence how the interaction unfolds, just as the choice of measurement in quantum experiments influences what properties become manifest. This doesn't mean you're literally collapsing quantum wave functions through your relationships, but rather that the principles of quantum mechanics offer useful metaphors for understanding how consciousness and connection operate. When you've had the experience of feeling deeply synchronized with another person, when conversation flows effortlessly and understanding seems to happen faster than words should allow, you might be witnessing something analogous to quantum coherence in social systems. Two conscious beings temporarily aligning their attention and intention in ways that create emergent properties neither could achieve alone. This remains a metaphorical interpretation, not a proven scientific phenomenon, but it offers a framework for appreciating the mysterious aspects of human connection that purely classical models struggle to explain. As we continue our gentle exploration, let's consider how the quantum perspective might illuminate one of the most fundamental aspects of conscious experience, presence itself. The quality of being fully here, now, aware and responsive to the unfolding moment. Presence isn't a static state, but a dynamic process, constantly emerging from the interaction between consciousness and reality. In quantum mechanics, we learn that particles don't have definite properties until they're observed. Similarly, moments don't have definite meaning until they're met with aware presence. This suggests something profound about your role in creating your own experience, not through wishful thinking or positive visualization, but through the quality of attention you bring to each moment. Just as quantum measurement participates in determining which possibilities become actual, conscious presence might participate in determining which aspects of reality become salient and meaningful. Notice how your experience of this very moment shifts depending on the quality of attention you bring to it. When you listen with full presence, these words carry different information than when you listen distractedly. When you breathe with awareness, the simple act of breathing becomes rich with sensation and significance. This isn't because presence changes the objective facts of what's happening, but because it influences which aspects of the quantum information field around you become accessible to conscious experience. The reality you inhabit is always a co-creation between the world as it is and the consciousness that observes it. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness research suggest that awareness itself might have quantum properties, existing in superposition until the moment of recognition focuses it into specific thoughts and perceptions. While this remains highly speculative, it offers an intriguing framework for understanding why presence feels so dynamic and creative. Memory, we're discovering, might be far more quantum in nature than traditional neuroscience has assumed. Not just the storage and retrieval of information, but the dynamic, creative process through which past experiences continue to influence present awareness. Consider how a particular smell can instantly transport you to a moment from childhood, complete with emotional resonances and sensory details you thought you'd forgotten. This isn't just the activation of stored neural patterns, though that's certainly part of it. There's something about memory that seems to transcend the boundaries of linear time, bringing past and present into a kind of quantum superposition. Some researchers speculate that if consciousness involves quantum processes, then memory might operate through quantum information networks that aren't bound by the classical constraints of individual neurons and their connections. This could help explain why memories feel so alive and present, why they continue to evolve and influence current experience long after the original events. This remains a highly speculative idea with no scientific consensus, but it invites us to consider whether the information that shapes our lives might be stored and accessed through quantum channels we don't yet understand. Your memories aren't just records of the past. They're living patterns that participate in the ongoing creation of your identity and experience. As you reflect on a meaningful memory right now, notice how it doesn't feel like accessing a file in a computer. The memory seems to reconstruct itself in the present moment, influenced by your current state of consciousness, your emotional tone, your life experiences since the original event. This dynamic, creative quality of memory might involve quantum processes that help explain why remembering feels more like co-creating than simply retrieving. The quantum perspective suggests that memory might be less about storage and more about resonance, the ability of consciousness to tune into information patterns that exist in the quantum field of possibility rather than being locked away in specific neural locations. This is where science becomes most beautiful, not when it provides final answers, but when it opens up new dimensions of wonder. The discovery of quantum effects in biological systems doesn't diminish the mystery of life. It reveals that life is even more mysterious and remarkable than we previously imagined. The same scientific method that has given us computers and medicines and space travel is now revealing that consciousness and connection might involve quantum processes we're only beginning to understand. This doesn't require us to abandon rational thinking or embrace unsubstantiated claims. Rather, it invites us to expand our rational thinking, to include possibilities we hadn't previously considered. What I find most compelling about quantum biology is how it bridges the apparent gap between the scientific worldview and the lived experience of being conscious, connected beings. You don't have to choose between being scientifically informed and experiencing deep connection, intuitive knowing, or moments of transcendent awareness. The quantum world teaches us that reality is far richer, stranger, and more interconnected than classical physics suggested. It's a reality where observation participates in creation, where distant events can be instantaneously correlated, where the boundaries between separate things are more fluid than they appear. This understanding doesn't require you to change anything about how you live, but it might subtly influence how you relate to yourself, others, and the mysterious process of conscious existence itself. The field of quantum biology is still in its infancy, with new discoveries emerging regularly that challenge our assumptions about what's possible in living systems. Each new finding opens up additional questions that we couldn't even have formulated before. This is how real science progresses, not through the accumulation of final answers, but through the continuous expansion of meaningful questions. In the coming decades, we may discover quantum effects in biological systems we haven't yet imagined. We may develop new technologies that can detect and measure quantum processes in living organisms with unprecedented precision. We may even learn to harness quantum biological principles for applications in medicine, computing, or energy production. But perhaps most importantly, we may develop a deeper understanding of what it means to be conscious, connected beings in a quantum universe. The implications extend far beyond biology and physics into philosophy, psychology, and the fundamental questions of human existence. This doesn't mean we should prematurely embrace every speculative possibility or abandon the careful methodology that makes science reliable. Rather, it means we can remain appropriately skeptical while staying open to discoveries that might transform our understanding of reality itself. The quantum world has already surprised us repeatedly, revealing phenomena that seemed impossible according to classical physics, but turned out to be fundamental features of reality. Who knows what other surprises await as we continue to explore the quantum foundations of life and consciousness. As you prepare to continue with your day or drift into sleep, I want to leave you with a final reflection on your place in this vast quantum symphony we've been exploring together. You are simultaneously the most ordinary and the most extraordinary thing in the universe. Ordinary because you're made of the same quantum fields and particles as everything else, subject to the same physical laws that govern stars and stones. Extraordinary because you're a temporary pattern of consciousness that has emerged from quantum processes capable of contemplating your own existence and your connection to the cosmos. Every moment of your life involves quantum processes so sophisticated that we're only beginning to understand them. From the quantum tunneling that powers your cellular energy production to the possible quantum networks that coordinate your thoughts, from the quantum-enhanced photosynthesis that creates your oxygen to the quantum principles that might underlie consciousness itself, you participate in a reality far more mysterious and interconnected than ordinary awareness reveals. This understanding doesn't require you to do anything differently, but it might influence how you experience being alive. You might notice a subtle shift in how you relate to the natural world, recognizing your fundamental connection to the quantum processes that sustain all life. You might find yourself slightly more comfortable with uncertainty and paradox, understanding these as fundamental features of quantum reality rather than problems to be solved. The quantum entanglements between particles, the quantum coherence in photosynthetic systems, the quantum navigation systems in migratory birds, the possible quantum networks in neural processing, all point toward a reality where connection is more fundamental than separation, where information and influence can transcend the classical boundaries of space and time. This doesn't mean you're telepathically connected to everyone around you, or that your thoughts directly influence quantum events. These remain unproven ideas that extend far beyond current scientific evidence, but it does suggest that the information networks that sustain life and possibly consciousness are richer and more mysterious than our classical models assume. You exist within a web of quantum correlations that connect you to every other living system, to the quantum processes in distant stars, to the fundamental fields that fill the universe, not through mystical forces or supernatural connections, but through the same physical principles that govern all of reality. This perspective invites a kind of gentle humility about what we know and don't know, combined with wonder at the extraordinary nature of ordinary existence. You don't need to understand quantum mechanics to participate in quantum processes. You don't need to believe in quantum consciousness to be a conscious quantum being. You simply need to be present, aware, and open to the mystery of what it means to exist as a pattern of consciousness in a quantum cosmos that is still revealing its secrets. As the gentle current of our exploration carries us deeper into these mysteries, let's pause and consider something that might be happening right now, in this very moment, as thousands of people around the world listen to these same words. Each individual brain processing quantum scale events, each consciousness engaging with these ideas through neural networks that might themselves involve quantum processes. If quantum entanglement can persist in biological systems, as the research we've explored suggests, then perhaps there's something profound happening when multiple conscious beings focus their attention on the same concepts simultaneously. Not through mystical group minds or telepathic connections, but through the more subtle ways that focused attention might participate in shaping the quantum information fields that surround us all. This remains purely speculative, with no scientific consensus supporting such ideas, but consider the metaphorical implications. When you direct your attention toward understanding quantum consciousness, when you genuinely contemplate the possibility that your awareness might involve quantum processes, you're participating in a kind of collective investigation that spans continents and cultures. Scientists in laboratories from Shanghai to Stanford are asking similar questions about the quantum nature of biological systems. Philosophers in universities around the world are grappling with what quantum mechanics might mean for our understanding of consciousness and identity. Contemplatives in quiet spaces are exploring whether meditative awareness reveals anything about the fundamental nature of reality itself. You're not alone in this inquiry. Your curiosity about these mysteries connects you to a vast network of human beings who are also wondering about the deepest questions of existence. This intellectual and spiritual kinship might not involve literal quantum entanglement, but it represents something equally profound: the human capacity to participate collectively in the ongoing discovery of what it means to be conscious beings in a quantum universe. As you breathe quietly and let these ideas settle into your awareness, notice that you're part of something larger than your individual contemplation. You're contributing to humanity's expanding understanding of consciousness, connection, and the mysterious relationship between mind and reality. Let's drift now into one of the most intriguing territories our exploration has opened: the possibility that thoughts themselves might have quantum characteristics. Not in the sense that your individual thoughts directly influence quantum events or manifest physical outcomes, which remains unproven, but in the more subtle sense that the process of thinking might involve quantum principles we're only beginning to recognize. Traditional neuroscience describes thoughts as patterns of electrical and chemical activity cascading through networks of neurons. This is certainly part of how thinking works, and it's a remarkably sophisticated process. But some interpretations of quantum consciousness research suggest there might be additional layers to consider. So, if awareness involves quantum processes, as some researchers speculate, then perhaps thoughts don't simply arise from classical neural computation, but emerge from the collapse of quantum possibilities into specific mental states. Each thought might represent the crystallization of potential mental configurations into particular patterns of conscious experience. This is a speculative idea with no scientific consensus, but it offers an intriguing framework for understanding why thinking feels so fluid and creative. Notice how thoughts seem to arise spontaneously from the quantum field of mental possibility, influenced by, but not entirely determined by your previous thoughts, current circumstances, or conscious intentions. Sometimes an insight appears fully formed, as if it existed in potential until the moment your attention crystallized it into awareness. Sometimes you find yourself thinking something you didn't expect to think, following mental pathways that surprise you with their originality or depth. This quantum-like quality of thought becomes particularly apparent during moments of creative insight or meditative awareness, when the normal stream of mental activity gives way to something more spacious and less predictable. The boundaries between thinker and thought, between subject and object of awareness, seem to become more fluid and permeable. While we can't prove that consciousness operates through quantum mechanisms, the metaphorical parallels are striking. Both quantum systems and conscious awareness seem to exist in superposition until the moment of observation collapses possibilities into specific states. As you continue to listen, let's explore how the act of listening itself might offer insights into the quantum nature of consciousness. Right now, sound waves created by speakers are traveling through air, striking your eardrums and being translated into electrical signals that your brain interprets as meaningful language. But something remarkable happens in the space between sound and understanding. The physical vibrations hitting your ears don't contain meaning in themselves. Meaning emerges from the interaction between the acoustic information and your conscious awareness, through processes that remain largely mysterious despite decades of neuroscientific research. If consciousness involves quantum processes, as some researchers propose, then listening might be one of the most direct ways we experience quantum effects in daily life. The conversion of sound waves into meaningful thoughts could involve quantum information processing that transcends classical models of neural computation. Notice how your understanding of these words seems to emerge instantaneously, without conscious effort or step-by-step analysis. You're not translating phonemes into words, words into concepts, concepts into meaning. The entire process happens as a unified field of comprehension that feels more like quantum measurement than classical computation. This quantum-like quality of listening becomes particularly apparent when you're deeply absorbed in music, poetry, or contemplative discourse. The boundaries between listener and listened to seem to dissolve, replaced by a unified field of awareness where sound and consciousness dance together in mysterious harmony. While this remains a metaphorical interpretation rather than proven science, it invites a deeper appreciation for the miraculous nature of conscious listening. Every moment of understanding represents the collapse of infinite acoustic possibilities into specific patterns of meaningful experience. As you notice your own process of listening right now, you might sense this quantum-like quality directly. Awareness doesn't feel mechanical or computational, but fluid, probabilistic, and mysteriously creative in its capacity to extract meaning from vibration. Let's turn our attention now to the landscape of inner experience itself, the subjective territory where thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise and dissolve in the field of awareness. This inner space might have quantum characteristics that mirror the strange properties we've discovered in physical systems. Consider how your emotional states seem to exist in superposition until something crystallizes them into specific feelings. You might wake up in a mood that contains multiple potential emotional directions simultaneously, uncertainty and excitement intermingled, sadness and relief occupying the same mental space. Then something happens, a conversation, a memory, a sensory experience, and the emotional superposition collapses into a definite state. Not through conscious decision or logical analysis, but through a process that feels more like quantum measurement than classical cause and effect. This isn't to suggest that emotions are literally quantum phenomena, which remains unproven, but rather that the dynamics of inner experience share intriguing parallels with quantum behavior. Both involve probability rather than certainty, relationship rather than isolation, and the mysterious role of observation in determining what becomes actual. Notice how your inner landscape right now contains multiple potential experiences simultaneously. You might be relaxed and curious, but also tired and slightly distracted. You might be following these ideas with interest, while also planning something for later. These different states coexist until your attention collapses them into specific moments of definite experience. The quantum perspective suggests that inner space isn't a container where experiences happen, but a dynamic field of possibility where consciousness participates in the ongoing creation of subjective reality. You don't just observe your thoughts and emotions, your observing participates in determining which possibilities become actual experiences. This understanding doesn't require you to change anything about how you relate to your inner life, but it might cultivate a greater appreciation for the creative, participatory nature of conscious awareness itself. As we continue our gentle descent into these mysteries, let's explore one of the most profound implications of quantum consciousness research: the possibility that perception and reality might be more intimately connected than classical science assumed. In quantum mechanics, we learn that observation plays a fundamental role in determining what becomes actual. The properties of quantum systems don't exist in definite states until they're measured, suggesting that reality at its most fundamental level is relational rather than absolute. If consciousness involves quantum processes, as some interpretations suggest, then perhaps perception isn't just a passive reception of information about an external world, but an active participation in determining which aspects of reality become manifest in experience. This doesn't mean you can think your way into changing the laws of physics or manifest material outcomes through mental intention, which remains unsubstantiated. Rather, it suggests that the reality you inhabit is always a co-creation between the world as it is and the consciousness that perceives it. Notice how your experience of this very moment shifts depending on the quality of attention you bring to it. When you listen with full presence, these words carry different information than when you listen distractedly. When you breathe with awareness, the simple act of breathing becomes rich with sensation and significance. The same physical processes are occurring in both cases, but the reality you experience is profoundly different. This isn't because consciousness changes the objective facts, but because it participates in determining which aspects of the infinite complexity around you become accessible to awareness. Some researchers speculate that if consciousness operates through quantum principles, then the act of focused attention might be analogous to quantum measurement, collapsing the superposition of potential experiences into specific conscious states. While this remains a highly speculative idea, it offers a framework for understanding why presence feels so creative and transformative, why the quality of attention seems to participate in shaping the nature of experience itself. Time, we're discovering, might operate very differently in quantum biological systems than our clock-based understanding typically suggests. The linear progression from past to future that governs our daily schedules might be only one layer of a more complex temporal reality that includes quantum dimensions we rarely notice. Consider how your experience of time varies dramatically depending on your state of consciousness. Minutes can feel like hours during moments of intense focus or crisis, while hours can pass like minutes during periods of deep engagement or meditative absorption. While these subjective time effects have conventional explanations in neuroscience and psychology, the quantum perspective suggests that the relationship between consciousness and temporality might be more fundamental than our classical models assume. If consciousness involves quantum processes, and if quantum systems can exist in superposition across multiple time states, then perhaps awareness itself participates in the creation of experiential time, rather than simply existing within it. This doesn't mean you can literally travel through time or change the past, but it might mean that consciousness has access to temporal information in ways that transcend the linear flow from moment to moment. Notice how memory brings past experiences into present awareness with a vividness that seems to collapse temporal distance. Notice how anticipation creates a kind of future presence in current experience. Notice how moments of deep presence seem to exist outside of time altogether, containing past and future in an eternal now. These temporal phenomena might involve quantum information processing that enables consciousness to access and integrate temporal information in ways that classical neural computation cannot fully explain. The quantum rhythm of biological time operates at scales ranging from the femtosecond quantum processes in photosynthesis to the circadian cycles that coordinate your daily experience. You participated in this temporal symphony not just as a passive observer, but as an active contributor to the creation of biological time itself. In quantum mechanics, every system exists in superposition until measurement collapses the wave function into specific states. If consciousness involves quantum processes, then perhaps every moment contains infinite potential experiences, with awareness serving as the mechanism that crystallizes particular realities from the field of possibility. This isn't to suggest that you can consciously choose which quantum outcomes become actual, which would be an extraordinary claim requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it's to appreciate that the reality you inhabit moment by moment emerges from the interaction between infinite possibility and the specific quality of attention you bring to each situation. Think of it like standing in a vast library where every book that could ever be written exists simultaneously. You can't read them all, and you can't control which books are available, but the ones you choose to open determine the story of your experience. The quantum field of possibility surrounds you constantly, filled with potential thoughts, emotions, insights, and connections that could crystallize into actual experience. The particular subset that becomes your conscious reality depends on countless factors, from the quantum processes in your neural networks to the quality of presence you cultivate in each moment. This perspective invites a profound appreciation for the creative nature of existence itself. You're not just a passive observer of a predetermined reality, but an active participant in the ongoing emergence of experience from the quantum field of potential. Every breath offers access to new possibilities. Every moment of attention opens different books in the infinite library. Every quality of awareness reveals different aspects of the inexhaustible mystery that is existence itself. The emerging field of quantum biology doesn't provide final answers about consciousness and connection, but it reveals that these phenomena are far more mysterious and potentially profound than previous scientific paradigms suggested. This doesn't require us to abandon rational thinking or embrace unsubstantiated claims, but rather to expand our rational thinking to include possibilities we hadn't previously considered. What I find most compelling about these discoveries is how they restore a sense of wonder to scientific inquiry without sacrificing intellectual integrity. The quantum world is strange enough without embellishing it with unproven assertions, but it's also far stranger and more beautiful than our everyday awareness typically reveals. You don't need to understand quantum mechanics to be a quantum being. You don't need to believe in quantum consciousness to participate in quantum processes. You simply need to be present, aware, and open to the extraordinary nature of ordinary existence. The breath you're taking right now involves quantum tunneling in your cellular energy production. The thoughts arising in your awareness might emerge from quantum processes we're only beginning to understand. The sense of connection you feel to others might involve information networks far richer than classical models predict. The quantum processes that sustain your life connect you to every other living system on Earth and to the fundamental fields that fill the universe, not through mystical forces, but through the same physical principles that govern all of reality. This understanding anything about how you live, but it might influence how you experience being alive. You might notice a subtle shift in how you relate to uncertainty, recognizing it as a fundamental feature of quantum reality rather than a problem to be solved. Now, as we drift deeper into the quiet hours, let me invite you to become an archaeologist of your own consciousness. Right now, as you listen to these words, layers of quantum activity are creating the substrate of your awareness in ways so subtle and complex that each moment of thought involves more quantum interactions than there are grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth. This isn't metaphor or wishful thinking. This is the literal reality of what it means to have a mind in a quantum universe. Every memory you can access, every emotion that colours your experience, every moment of recognition or understanding emerges from quantum processes operating at scales so small and fast that they exist in a realm where our ordinary concepts of time and space begin to lose their meaning. The carbon atoms in the molecules that store your memories have been quantum dancing since they were forged in stellar cores billions of years ago. But here's what makes this particularly fascinating for understanding consciousness. Some interpretations of quantum biology research suggest that the information networks in your brain might operate through quantum channels that transcend the classical limitations of individual neurons firing in sequence. This remains a speculative idea with no scientific consensus, but it opens up intriguing questions about the nature of memory, learning, and the mysterious unity of conscious experience. Consider how you can remember not just facts or events, but entire atmospheres of experience. The quality of light on a particular afternoon decades ago, the feeling of being understood by someone who mattered to you, the sudden recognition of a truth that seemed to arrive from nowhere. These rich multi-dimensional memories might involve quantum information processing that helps explain why remembering feels more like reconstruction than simple retrieval. Take a moment to notice how memory operates in your awareness right now. When you recall a meaningful experience, it doesn't feel like accessing a file in a computer. The memory seems to assemble itself in the present moment, influenced by your current state of consciousness, coloured by everything you've experienced since the original event. This dynamic, creative quality of memory might involve quantum coherence effects that enable different regions of your brain to coordinate information in ways that classical neural networks alone cannot fully explain. Not through mystical connections or supernatural processes, but through the same quantum principles we've seen operating in photosynthetic systems and bird navigation networks. As the night settles around you, let's explore one of the most profound questions that emerges from our understanding of quantum consciousness: the paradox of choice and determinism in a quantum universe. This is speculative territory where physics meets philosophy, where scientific investigation encounters some of the deepest puzzles about what it means to be a conscious agent in a probabilistic cosmos. Classical physics painted a picture of a deterministic universe, where every event was the inevitable result of prior causes. If you could know the position and momentum of every particle in the universe, you could theoretically predict the future with perfect accuracy. This view left little room for genuine choice or free will, suggesting that our sense of making decisions was merely an illusion created by our limited perspective. Quantum mechanics introduces a different kind of puzzle. At the quantum level, events appear to be genuinely random rather than deterministic. When a quantum measurement occurs, the outcome is probabilistic rather than predetermined. This might seem to create space for free will, but random events aren't necessarily free choices either. A decision that emerges from quantum randomness isn't obviously more free than one that emerges from deterministic causes. But here's where quantum consciousness research opens up intriguing possibilities. Though these remain highly speculative, with no scientific consensus, if consciousness involves quantum processes, as some interpretations suggest, then perhaps the experience of choice represents something more subtle than either pure determinism or pure randomness. Maybe conscious decision-making involves the collapse of quantum possibilities into specific intentions and actions, with awareness serving as the mechanism that selects particular outcomes from the field of potential. This wouldn't make you the master of quantum events, but it might make you a participant in determining which possibilities become actual in your experience. Notice how choice feels in your own awareness. When you make a decision, it doesn't feel purely random, but it also doesn't feel completely predetermined. There's often a sense of possibility space opening up, different options existing in potential, until the moment of commitment crystallizes one particular path forward. This quantum-like quality of choice becomes particularly apparent during moments of genuine uncertainty, when you're genuinely unsure which direction to take. The decision seems to emerge from a kind of creative space, where multiple futures coexist until your choosing collapses them into a single, actual direction. While we can't prove that free will operates through quantum mechanisms, the metaphorical parallels offer a framework for understanding why choice feels both constrained and creative, both influenced by prior causes and genuinely open to multiple possibilities. Now, as you perhaps begin to feel the gentle pull of sleep, let's explore what might be happening in your consciousness during those mysterious hours when awareness shifts into different modes of being. Sleep represents one of the most fascinating territories for considering quantum effects in consciousness, a realm where the normal boundaries of waking experience dissolve into something far more fluid and strange. During sleep, your brain doesn't simply shut down or replay the day's events. Instead, it enters into complex cycles of activity that involve some of the most sophisticated information processing that occurs in any biological system. Recent research suggests that sleep might be when quantum effects in neural networks become most apparent, as the reduced sensory input and altered brain chemistry create conditions where subtle quantum processes can influence conscious experience more directly. This is speculative territory with no scientific consensus, but consider what happens during REM sleep when the most vivid dreams occur. Your brain becomes nearly as active as during waking consciousness, but this activity is disconnected from sensory input and motor output. In this state, consciousness seems to operate more freely, creating experiences that transcend the normal limitations of space, time, and physical possibility. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness research suggest that dreams might represent consciousness operating in a more quantum-like mode, where the normal classical constraints of waking awareness are temporarily suspended. In dreams, you can be in multiple places simultaneously, experience impossible transformations, and access information that seems to come from beyond your conscious memories. While this remains a speculative idea, it offers an intriguing framework for understanding why dreams feel so different from waking consciousness, why they often contain insights or creative solutions that weren't available during conscious problem solving, and why they sometimes seem to connect us to information that transcends our individual experience. The boundary between sleeping and waking consciousness might not be as sharp as we typically assume. Perhaps there are quantum information networks that operate continuously but become more accessible to awareness during the altered states of sleep, when the classical filtering mechanisms of waking consciousness are reduced. As you notice your own relationship with sleep and dreams, you might sense this quantum-like quality directly. Dreams don't feel mechanical or predictable, but fluid, probabilistic, and mysteriously creative in their capacity to generate experiences that surprise and instruct the dreaming consciousness. As we continue our gentle descent into these profound mysteries, let's explore what might be the most immediate and accessible aspect of quantum consciousness: the simple miracle of being present, aware, and awake in this very moment. Presence isn't a static state, but a dynamic process of consciousness, engaging with reality in real time. Each moment of awareness involves the collapse of infinite possibilities into the specific richness of present experience. Right now, as you listen to these words, your consciousness is selecting particular aspects of reality to attend to from an overwhelming field of available information. The quantum perspective suggests that this selection process might involve mechanisms similar to quantum measurement, where the act of attention participates in determining which possibilities become actual in conscious experience. This doesn't mean you're literally collapsing quantum wave functions through your awareness, which would be an extraordinary claim requiring extraordinary evidence, but rather that the principles of quantum mechanics offer useful metaphors for understanding how consciousness operates. Notice how your attention right now exists in a kind of dynamic equilibrium, simultaneously focused on these words while remaining open to other streams of information. You're aware of background sounds, bodily sensations, emotional tones, and the quality of light around you, all woven together in a unified field of present moment awareness. This multi-dimensional quality of presence might involve quantum coherence effects that enable different aspects of consciousness to coordinate information in ways that transcend classical models of neural processing. The unity of conscious experience, the way disparate sensory inputs and mental processes integrate into a coherent sense of being present, remains one of the deepest mysteries in neuroscience. Some researchers speculate that if consciousness involves quantum processes, then presence itself might be a form of quantum phenomenon, where awareness exists in superposition across multiple potential states until the moment of recognition focuses it into specific experiences. While this remains highly speculative, it invites a deeper appreciation for the miraculous nature of ordinary awareness. Every moment of presence represents the emergence of specific conscious experience from the infinite field of possibility that surrounds us always. As you rest in this quiet space of contemplation, let's consider how the quantum principles we've been exploring might illuminate one of the most mysterious aspects of human experience: the way individual consciousness seems to participate in larger patterns of collective understanding and cultural memory. Throughout history, humans have reported experiences that suggest consciousness might not be entirely confined to individual brains. Similar insights arising simultaneously in different cultures, collective responses to events that transcend individual knowledge, the sense of participating in larger patterns of meaning that extend beyond personal experience. While mainstream science attributes such phenomena to shared genetics, similar environments, and cultural transmission of information, the emerging understanding of quantum effects in biological systems opens up questions about whether there might be additional layers of connection operating at scales we don't yet understand. This remains speculative territory with no scientific consensus, but consider how quantum entanglement creates instantaneous correlations between distant particles. If consciousness involves quantum processes, might there be subtle information networks that connect conscious beings in ways that transcend the classical boundaries of individual awareness? This doesn't mean you're telepathically connected to others or that there's a literal collective mind, which would be extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it suggests that the information networks that shape human culture and understanding might be richer and more mysterious than our individualistic models typically assume. Think about how certain ideas seem to arise simultaneously in different places, how social movements can emerge spontaneously across vast distances, how you sometimes know things about collective moods or cultural shifts that you couldn't have learned through explicit information channels. While these experiences likely have conventional explanations in social psychology and information theory, the quantum perspective offers a framework for appreciating the mysterious ways that individual consciousness participates in larger patterns of collective intelligence and cultural evolution. You exist not just as an isolated individual, but as a participant in the ongoing conversation between consciousness and reality that has been unfolding throughout human history. Your awareness contributes to the collective exploration of what it means to be conscious beings in a quantum universe. Now, as we approach the deeper territories of our exploration, let's consider how the quantum understanding of consciousness might illuminate one of the most profound aspects of human experience: compassion and the mysterious capacity to genuinely care about the well-being of others. Compassion has always been something of a puzzle from a purely classical perspective. If we are separate individuals with independent nervous systems, why should the suffering or joy of others affect us so deeply? Why do we sometimes feel the pain of strangers, experience genuine concern for people we've never met, or find ourselves moved to action by situations that don't directly impact our own survival? The quantum perspective on consciousness opens up intriguing possibilities for understanding these phenomena, though we must be clear that these remain speculative interpretations rather than proven scientific facts. If consciousness involves quantum processes that can transcend classical boundaries of space and individual neural networks, then perhaps empathy and compassion reflect something fundamental about the nature of awareness itself. This doesn't mean you're literally entangled with everyone you feel compassion for, which would be an extraordinary claim requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it suggests that the boundaries between self and other might be more permeable than our classical models assume, and that the information networks that sustain consciousness might extend beyond individual brains in ways we're only beginning to investigate. Consider your own experience of compassion. When you genuinely care about someone else's well-being, it doesn't feel like an abstract intellectual decision or a calculated response based on social conditioning. It feels more like a direct recognition of shared being, a moment when the boundaries between your experience and theirs become temporarily transparent. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness research suggest that these moments of genuine empathy might involve quantum coherence effects that enable consciousness to access information about other conscious beings in ways that transcend classical sensory channels. While this remains highly speculative, it offers a framework for understanding why compassion feels so natural and immediate when it arises, why it often involves knowing things about others that you couldn't have learned through explicit communication, and why it creates such a profound sense of connection and shared reality. As you breathe quietly in this contemplative space, let's explore one of the most mysterious aspects of human consciousness: the phenomenon of creative inspiration. Those moments when new ideas, artistic visions, or innovative solutions seem to arrive from beyond the boundaries of ordinary thinking. Every creative person has experienced those magical moments when something genuinely new emerges in awareness, seemingly from nowhere, a melody that appears complete, a solution to a problem that suddenly becomes obvious, a poem that writes itself, a scientific insight that reorganizes entire fields of understanding. Traditional neuroscience explains creativity through the recombination of existing neural patterns, the association of previously unconnected memories and concepts, and the relaxation of inhibitory mechanisms that normally constrain thinking. These explanations capture important aspects of creative process, but they don't fully account for the quality of genuine novelty that characterizes the most profound creative insights. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness research, though these remain speculative with no scientific consensus, suggest that creative inspiration might involve quantum processes that enable consciousness to access information from the broader field of possibility rather than being limited to the recombination of existing mental content. This doesn't mean that new ideas literally emerge from quantum fields, or that creativity involves supernatural processes, which would be extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it suggests that the information processing mechanisms underlying creativity might be more quantum in nature than classical models assume. Notice your own experience of creative insight when it occurs. Original ideas don't feel like the mechanical combination of existing thoughts, but more like the collapse of potential into something genuinely new. There's often a sense of discovery rather than invention, as if the insight existed in possibility until the moment of recognition brought it into conscious awareness. This quantum-like quality of creativity becomes particularly apparent during moments of genuine breakthrough, when solutions to problems appear suddenly and completely formed, or when artistic visions arise with a coherence and completeness that transcends what conscious planning could achieve. The quantum perspective suggests that consciousness might have access to information networks that extend beyond the classical boundaries of individual neural processing, enabling creative insights that reflect the broader patterns and possibilities inherent in reality itself. As we continue this gentle journey through the mysteries of consciousness, let's explore how quantum principles might illuminate one of the most profound aspects of biological existence: the capacity for healing, regeneration, and the restoration of wholeness in living systems. Your body is constantly engaged in processes of repair and renewal that operate with extraordinary precision and intelligence. Wounds heal, broken bones mend, damaged tissues regenerate, and your immune system coordinates responses to threats with a sophistication that exceeds our most advanced artificial intelligence systems. Traditional biology explains healing through well-understood mechanisms of cellular repair, immune function, and tissue regeneration. These explanations are scientifically sound and account for much of what we observe in healing processes. But the emerging understanding of quantum effects in biological systems opens up questions about whether there might be additional layers of coordination and intelligence operating at quantum scales. This remains speculative territory with no scientific consensus, but consider how quantum coherence effects enable photosynthetic systems to achieve remarkable efficiency by exploring multiple energy pathways simultaneously. Might similar quantum processes contribute to the extraordinary coordination required for complex healing responses? Some interpretations of quantum biology research suggest that the information networks that coordinate healing might involve quantum channels that enable different parts of the body to share information instantaneously, rather than relying solely on chemical and electrical signals that take time to travel through biological networks. This doesn't mean that quantum effects are responsible for miraculous healing, or that consciousness can directly influence quantum processes to cure disease, which would be extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it suggests that the biological intelligence underlying healing processes might be more quantum in nature than our classical models assume. Notice how healing feels in your own body when it occurs. Recovery from illness or injury doesn't feel like a mechanical repair process, but more like the restoration of a dynamic pattern of wholeness that transcends the sum of individual cellular activities. The quantum perspective suggests that biological wholeness might be an emergent property of quantum information networks that coordinate the activities of countless individual cells and organs into the unified organism you experience as your body. Now, as you rest in the depths of this contemplative exploration, let's consider how the quantum principles we've discovered might manifest in the collective dimension of human experience. In those moments when groups of people seem to achieve states of resonance and coherence that transcend individual consciousness. Throughout history, humans have reported experiences of collective harmony that seem to emerge spontaneously when groups of people align their attention and intention. Musical ensembles that achieve perfect synchronization without conscious coordination. Meditation groups that experience shared states of deep calm and clarity. Communities that respond to challenges with a collective intelligence that exceeds what individual members could achieve alone. While these phenomena likely have conventional explanations in social psychology and group dynamics, some interpretations of quantum consciousness research, though these remain highly speculative, suggest that collective resonance might involve quantum coherence effects that enable groups of conscious beings to coordinate information in ways that transcend classical communication channels. This doesn't mean that groups literally achieve quantum entanglement, or that collective consciousness operates through supernatural mechanisms which would be extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it suggests that the information networks that enable social coordination might be richer and more mysterious than our individualistic models typically assume. Consider your own experience of being part of a group that achieves genuine harmony, whether in conversation, creative collaboration, or shared contemplative practice. There are moments when the boundaries between individual perspectives seem to become more permeable, replaced by a unified field of collective awareness. Some researchers speculate that if consciousness involves quantum processes, then these moments of collective resonance might reflect temporary states of quantum coherence between individual conscious systems, enabling shared access to information and insight that wouldn't be available to isolated individuals. While this remains a speculative idea with no scientific consensus, it offers a framework for understanding why collective practices like group meditation, choral singing, or synchronized movement can create such profound experiences of connection and shared meaning. The quantum perspective suggests that consciousness might not be entirely confined to individual brains, but might participate in larger patterns of information and coherence that emerge when conscious beings align their attention and intention in harmonious ways. As we drift deeper into the quiet heart of these mysteries, let's rest for a moment in the profound recognition that you exist within an infinite garden of possibility, where consciousness serves as both gardener and flower, cultivating specific experiences from the endless potential that surrounds us always. The quantum field of possibility that physicists describe in their equations isn't an abstract mathematical construct separate from your lived experience. It's the very medium in which consciousness operates, the fertile ground from which every thought, every perception, every moment of awareness blossoms into existence. Right now, as you listen to these words, infinite potential experiences exist in superposition around you. Countless possible thoughts that could arise, emotions that could colour your awareness, insights that could illuminate your understanding, connections that could deepen your sense of participation in the larger patterns of existence. The particular subset of these possibilities that crystallizes into your actual experience depends on countless factors, from the quantum processes in your neural networks to the quality of attention you bring to each moment, from the information patterns you choose to engage with to the intentions that guide your consciousness through the field of potential. This perspective invites a profound appreciation for the creative nature of awareness itself. You're not just a passive observer of a predetermined reality, but an active participant in the ongoing emergence of experience from the quantum field of possibility. Every moment offers access to new dimensions of potential. Every quality of attention opens different aspects of the infinite garden. Every breath creates space for experiences that didn't exist in the previous moment. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness research, though these remain speculative with no scientific consensus, suggest that the cultivation of refined awareness might enable access to subtler dimensions of the possibility field, revealing information and insight that isn't available to more contracted states of consciousness. This doesn't mean that consciousness can manipulate quantum events or manifest specific outcomes through mental intention, which would be extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it suggests that the quality of awareness itself might influence which aspects of the infinite potential become accessible to conscious experience. As our exploration continues to deepen, let's tune our attention to one of the most practical applications of quantum consciousness understanding: the art of listening to life itself with the kind of refined attention that might enable access to the subtler information networks that surround us always. Listening in this context means more than simply hearing sounds or processing linguistic information. It means opening to the full spectrum of information that's available in each moment, from the obvious sensory data to the subtler patterns of energy, meaning, and connection that weave through every experience. The quantum perspective suggests that reality is far richer in information than our ordinary awareness typically accesses. At every moment, countless streams of data are available, from the quantum processes in your cellular networks to the electromagnetic patterns generated by your nervous system, from the subtle energy exchanges that occur during social interactions to the larger patterns of coherence and meaning that connect individual experiences to collective intelligence. Most of this information remains below the threshold of conscious awareness, filtered out by the neural mechanisms that evolved to help us focus on immediately relevant survival information. But some interpretations of quantum consciousness research suggest that refined attention might enable access to subtler dimensions of the information field. This doesn't mean developing psychic powers or supernatural abilities, which would be extraordinary claims requiring extraordinary evidence. Rather, it means cultivating the kind of open, receptive awareness that can notice subtler patterns and connections that are normally filtered out by our habitual ways of attending. Notice how your capacity to receive information changes depending on the quality of attention you bring to different situations. When you listen to someone with full presence, you often understand far more than the literal content of their words. When you walk in nature with open awareness, you notice patterns and relationships that aren't apparent during distracted observation. This quantum-informed approach to listening involves recognizing that the boundaries between observer and observed, between consciousness and its content, might be more fluid than our classical models assume. The information you access through refined attention might not be separate from your consciousness, but might emerge from the dynamic interaction between awareness and the quantum field of possibility. Now, as the quiet hours deepen around you, let's explore how consciousness might participate in patterns of information and meaning that extend far beyond the boundaries of individual lifetime, connecting us to the deeper rhythms and cycles that operate on geological and cosmic scales. Your consciousness didn't emerge from nothing when you were born. It represents the latest expression of an evolutionary process that extends back through billions of years of biological development, cosmic evolution, and the fundamental emergence of complexity from the quantum field that underlies all existence. The atoms that make up your body, the molecular patterns that encode your genetic information, the neural networks that support your awareness, all carry information from this vast evolutionary history. You are, quite literally, the cosmos becoming conscious of itself through the temporary pattern of organization we call human life. Some interpretations of quantum consciousness research, though these remain highly speculative, suggest that consciousness might have access to information patterns that extend far beyond individual neural networks, connecting individual awareness to the larger intelligence that manifests through evolutionary processes, ecological systems, and cosmic development. As we reach the end of our gentle journey through the quantum mysteries of consciousness and connection, take a moment to feel the extraordinary nature of this very instant. You've spent these quiet hours exploring ideas at the very frontier of human understanding, where rigorous science meets the deepest puzzles of what it means to be aware, alive, and mysteriously connected to the cosmos itself. The emerging science of quantum biology reveals that you are far more than a classical machine made of atoms and chemistry. You are a dynamic pattern of quantum possibility, participating in processes so sophisticated and interconnected that every breath involves more quantum interactions than there are stars in the observable universe. From the quantum-enhanced photosynthesis that creates your oxygen to the possible quantum networks that might coordinate your thoughts, you exist within a reality that is simultaneously stranger and more unified than our everyday awareness typically reveals. While many of these ideas remain speculative, requiring years of additional research to confirm or refute, they invite us to expand our sense of what it means to be conscious beings in a quantum cosmos. The boundaries between self and world, between mind and matter, between individual awareness and collective intelligence may be far more permeable than we've assumed. As you continue through your days, carry with you this sense of wonder about the hidden quantum processes that sustain your existence. When you feel unexpectedly connected to someone, when intuition guides you toward understanding, when moments of presence reveal the extraordinary nature of ordinary experience, remember that you might be touching something far more profound than classical models suggest. You are not separate from the quantum world. You are an expression of it, a conscious note in the infinite symphony of possibility that plays itself into existence moment by moment. Rest in that knowledge, and in the profound possibility that we are all more deeply connected than we ever dared imagine. And speaking of the mysteries that challenge our deepest assumptions about reality, next time we'll explore why faster than light travel might destroy reality, discovering how violating the cosmic speed limit could unravel the very fabric of existence in ways that make quantum entanglement seem gentle by comparison. Until then, sweet dreams, fellow travelers in this quantum cosmos. Until then, sweet dreams, fellow travelers in this quantum cosmos.